This should come as a surprise to absolutely no one, but Wuthering Heights was exactly as bad as it was predicted to be. Despite hearing all the complete inaccuracies that this movie was planned to have, I still went in with an open mind, hoping that the visuals, cinematography, and hopefully change in artistic direction was going to be enough to make up for the complete deviation from the original material. I watched this movie on the opening day and I went to see it. It was only me and two other couples in the entire theater. The opening scene, which I had already read in the script that was released like months back, was exactly as shocking and as unhinged as it was written to be. I do want to say that I write my thoughts a lot better than I can speak them. So if you do want to see my full analysis on this movie, go ahead and follow me on my Letterboxd and see what I wrote. Now, if you've seen some of Emerald Fennell's work, especially her artistic direction in Saltburn, you might not be that shocked by the opening scene, but it was quite disorienting. But I feel like because I was a little bit prepped on what I was going to be seeing, it wasn't as shocking for me. But I feel like it laid the foundation for the depraved gothic direction that this entire movie was going to be taking. Let's quickly talk about the good parts of this movie. First of all, I thoroughly enjoyed Jacob Elordi's acting, and in fact, I'm really starting to like him in movies. The last thing that I saw him in was Frankenstein, and I feel like he did a phenomenal job in carrying out the character. His take on Heathcliff, although I don't know the original material super well, like some people who've already read Wuthering Heights, I feel like he did an amazing job, and his expression of the accent was incredibly well done and very well believed. I will also say that the way that he portrays the character's emotions was done so phenomenally, and it was incredibly enjoyable to watch him on screen. And I just really liked everything that he did. I feel like he sold the yearning, the pining, the wistfulness of wanting to be with Catherine very, very well. Another element of this movie that I fully enjoyed was the theatrical gaudiness of Gothic culture in the way that they did their set design, the way that they did the dressing. Everything was so beautiful. They had some really, really gorgeous cinematography and some gorgeous shots there. Like, for example, this shot specifically really was so incredibly eye-catching. And there was another shot where Heathcliff was looking like through the window and looking for the sister of Mr. Linton. And it was just this beautiful shot of him. His like droopy, gorgeous, wet, sappy brown eyes looked so beautiful in that shot. And it was really, really enchanting. Now, I made a video already talking about what I did not like about the press run for this movie, and that was the attempt to sell the chemistry between Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. And I felt like it was very just cheap and a gross, it was just cheap. I don't know. This whole movie felt like a very rushed, cheap thing. I don't know how to explain it. My personal gripes, now we're going to move on to the things that I did not like about this movie. First of all, the over-the-top incessant callback to foreshadowing through the use of red coloring in the movie just felt really overdone for me personally. It started with kind of like the dressing of Catherine, things like red ribbons, red rooms, red lighting, red dresses, the gowns, the skirts, everything was red. And I feel like it slowly progressed and increased as we moved throughout the movie. I love some good foreshadowing. I felt like it was just a bit too much and it was doing too much. And it was like, okay, we get it. Also, a quarter of the way into the movie, I really was getting tired of watching it and I was really waiting for it to end. And that's unfortunate because I love a horny movie like The Next Girl. I'm not gonna lie, I love me a horny movie. And I felt like Saltburn did so much well in regards to the horniness that was not sold properly in this movie. Another thing that I didn't like, even though the music scoring was beautiful and enjoyable, I felt like the TikTokification of certain songs and just Charlie XCX as in general made it really hard to distinguish the two and separate them from, oh, I'm watching a TikTok like edit versus, oh, I'm watching this movie that had like a huge budget. You know what I mean? I might talk later on whether or not Charlie XCX album from this movie stands alone really well, but I like the soundtrack. I just did not like it it was just hard to separate like, oh, this is Charlie XCX from this is like a real production, you know? Side note, another issue that I didn't like was I felt like it wasn't horny enough. Like I get what they were trying to do, it just wasn't enough. Like it was too much and it wasn't enough in all the wrong ways. Quick pivot back to Catherine. When we transition from young Catherine, who has this very annoying pest-like, almost psychopathic energy, to older Catherine, it was incredibly jarring. And I hate to say it, but I did not like Margot Robbie's rendition of the character at all. And this is going to be a callback to a lot of the complaints that people have had about Wuthering Heights since the beginning of the production, which is that Margot Robbie is a very poised, very graceful person. She carries herself in such a very poised, almost rigid way, which I personally like. However, in translating that into this character who's supposed to be this kind of bountiful, like bounding energy type of person, it was a very rough transition. I feel like she didn't sell it well. And so it comes across as very try hard, and it's hard for the audience to fully delve into the character because it feels like she's putting on an act. And that is, it's so obvious, it's hard to get out of that. I found myself incredibly bored literally a quarter of the way through the movie, and I feel like that's very unfortunate considering that this movie does have some beautiful parts of it and some interesting parts, like for example, the setting of this beautiful Moorish sullen world. I feel like they could have really done so much more with it and made it more impactful and enjoyable to see. Some other good parts that I will say that I enjoyed was the father's acting. He creeped me the fuck out. Honestly, I felt like it was turning into a horror movie. He creeped me the fuck out and he really sold his role. Yeah. Let's move on to the costuming and the design because I have a lot to say about that and why it lends itself into so many inaccuracies and why it makes it hard to fully get lost in the story. The costuming is wrong. Everything about it is wrong. I'm not super knowledgeable in historical dressing and stuff like that. All I know is this is wrong and this is not an accurate depiction. And I know the movie's in quotation marks, it's supposed to be an artistic rendition of what Emerald thought Wuthering Heights could have been, wanted to be, whatever. It was just wrong. And it was wrong in such a loud way that made it incredibly hard to focus on the story. There were so many scenes, like for example, this dressing with such gaudy jewelry, like incredibly bold, loud, gaudy jewelry, gaudy settings. There was a room in Linton's house that was like dripping with pearls or diamonds and something like that. And I feel like it was just too much in the completely wrong way. It felt like a fantastical rendition on what it would be like to be in England in that time, or like in that Moorish town in that time. And it felt way too much of like a caricature, basically. Also want to give a huge shout out to Jacob Elordi's tongue in this movie. Did the heavy lifting. It was super hot, super hot. I have nothing else to say. And again, calling back to the opening scene, I feel like it really just laid the foundation of wanting this to be a very depraved look on love and romance, but it unfortunately misses the mark by 1,000 miles. Like, it's actually so unfortunate because I feel like that opening scene would have done well in something like Saltburn. I don't know. The jarring shockingness of it did not properly foreshadow what the rest of the movie was going to be like, because I feel like in a way the rest of the movie was very tame compared to the opening scene. I do love the callback to forbidden desires, dark desires, depraved desires, like we see with the sister of Linton, who finally like comes out of her shell in this really almost scary way with her obsession. Like, that's another thing that I noticed in this movie was just the reoccurring themes of dark obsession to the point of like fully possessing the person and fully possessing the character, which I enjoyed, but it just wasn't, it didn't, like, they should have really done a full send on that. Like, it just wasn't what it could have been. Overall, I rated this movie a 3 stars, would have done a 2.5, but I had to give some room for the positive parts that I really liked about it. I wouldn't watch this movie again of my own volition, okay? It would be something that I want to do with somebody else just to get their reaction, but it's not something that I would rewatch. The side characters also did a great job. I really feel like younger Catherine and younger Heathcliff also did a great job in selling it. The father did a great job. I really don't have much to say about Nellie. I don't think I fully understood what like the purpose of her character, and you know, I didn't really get that. It's unfortunate to me because I feel like they could have really done a lot more with this movie than they did. If they were gonna make it like a depraved 50 Shades of Grey, they could have just done that without attaching Wuthering Heights to it. If they were gonna do Wuthering Heights, they should have really stayed true to the material and done it in a different way. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't that good, unfortunately.